Hi, and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of July 13th, 2020. First, a quick recap of the predictions for the previous week and what had actually happened. My predictions for the stock market were that Monday would be a down day, and it actually was an up day. Tuesday, my predictions were that market would go up, and it actually went down. Then Wednesday, I predicted it to be an up day, and actually it was. Thursday, my prediction yet again was that it would be an up day, and the mixed results is what happened. Nasdaq went up and Dow Jones went down. And Friday, I predicted that it would be a down day, but actually market went up. So really, I would say 1.5 out of 5 in terms of the accuracy for the stock market predictions. In terms of other ongoing aspects, we have this ongoing prediction of the increased seismic activity, which is going to be with us through 2020. Last week we had maybe some 5 point something plus magnitude earthquakes. However, I didn't see anything super major. That said, in terms of earthquakes, we will see an uptick in activity sometime later this year. And let me see what I had here. I would say between November and February of 2021, November of 2020 through February of 2021, and especially mainly December and January is when we can expect increased sort of seismic activity or probability of larger earthquakes. And within that time period, I would look for the weeks of December 21st and the week of January 18. So moving back to the prediction review, I made predictions for also last week, specifically for July 11th and 12th, Saturday, Sunday, that would be a reversal in some sort of a direction of either events or decision and negotiations, in particular related to either retail sales, communication, transportation businesses, or education domains, or basically if there would be like a pending negotiations or a blocked project that maybe like a store is awaiting permission to reopen, or a travel route that maybe it was blocked and needs to be reopened, or vice versa, it was open and maybe the decision would be to close it again. So basically the prediction was that would be a change in the events and or previous decision may be overturned. So I did see a few events basically that involved changes in or reversals in such decisions, and in particular there was this one on within the time frame on late on Friday, the 10th of July. Donald Trump, U.S. President Donald Trump had made an announcement, I guess, or rather the announcement came about President making commuting his sentence of his long time friend, I guess, Roger Stone, and basically the sentence that this person was about to serve of 40 months was wiped away. So I guess it's a reversal in the sense of what this person was about to experience, and I guess the sentence wasn't necessarily removed, but it was commuted. We also, of course, had, and I'm recording this on the 13th of July at the end of the business day, so I did see how basically market had finished on Monday the 13th, and indeed what we had was the Nasdaq composite index had a really large swing today, and it swung from about 2% gain to 2% loss, and that was due to news from California that basically they had reimposed some restrictions on business reopenings. And in some counties, like Kern County, they actually first made an announcement, that they're going to close businesses, and then again they took that same county off of the closures list, at least for the time being. So there's a lot of these reversals, and this was, even though it was on the 13th, outside of my 11 to 12 dates prediction, although of course my predictions were for last week, we did have this major reversal that did affect specifically stock market direction. There was also on the 7-9, I did see that there was an announcement from Texas that they also reversed their decision and basically that they will not collect overpaid unemployment benefits in instances where it was the mistake of the state. So again, another type of reversal, but I guess the one about the NASDAQ and California decision were most likely the more meaningful ones. Also, I made a prediction for last week for July 9th and 10th that there will be increased news about like healthcare, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, oil, gas, navy, pollution, movies, religion, drugs, etc. All these Neptunian subjects basically. And of course we had a important announcement on the 10th from Turkey that Turkish President Erdogan had signed a decree turning the Hagia Sophia into mosque after court ruled basically to again overturn. So I guess the same time for overturning of the decisions of previous sort of decision that had made Hagia Sophia a museum, and it's been a museum since 1934, and of course it used to be an Orthodox church, and now they're looking to turn it back into a mosque. So I guess this qualifies both under both the reversal decision as well as focus on like religion. And there was some other news around the same time, like for example, I guess there are a lot of news, of course, about COVID-19. There was news that the basically this whole Bollywood family, the Amitabh Bachchan, as well as his son and Aishwarya, his wife, they have been diagnosed with a positive for COVID-19. Then a little bit outside of the days of 9th and 10th that I mentioned, there were a couple pieces of news from US that on the 7th of July, there was a police, I guess, had to respond to an active shooter situation at Marine Corps base in California. Then on the 12th, there was a massive blaze and explosion at the U.S. military ship in San Diego, obviously also California. So these were, the 7th and the 12th were a little bit of outside of the 9th and 10th dates that I specifically mentioned. That said, they did obviously deal with the Navy type of news in the or Navy related, I guess, news being prominently featured. So another sort of prediction that I have that is basically in place for this whole year, but particularly strongly felt, should be particularly strongly felt between like mid-June to about mid-July, and then early to, I guess, third week of November, and that has to do with like Pluto conjuncting Jupiter in Capricorn, where basically we would expect things like news about like nuclear power, radiation, power plants in general, recycling, changes in power at the tops of like governments or corporations, as well as any sort of secretive activities, spying, hacking, underground activities. Of course, we have this police reform with Pluto rules Scorpio, which again, all of that is associated with either like violent activities, crime, of course, fighting the crime, but also spying and things that happen underground. So anything to do with like burials, mining, waste storage, as well as, of course, Jupiter has to do with things like immigration, law, religious activities, and of course we had news already, among the news that I already mentioned, like the change in the status of Hagia Sophia, obviously has to do with like, again, religion, but not necessarily in terms of like spiritual, I mean, at least not in my sort of view, but more with the status of it as a place of, I guess, a religious place, and it's changing the status of it. And we of course also had this news even related to President Trump commuting the sentence of Roger Stone is also a situation related to like legal activities and making some sort of changes in that area. And let's see, and among other news that fall kind of, I would say, representation of this aspect, that transit, There was some news on the 7th of July that some 7 torture chambers and cells were discovered inside shipping containers by Dutch police. And I guess apparently some criminals prepared that to capture some other criminals, and they caught them by, cracking an encrypted chat app. But again, you're talking about crime, police, secret things and again, shipping containers, of course, we're talking about, again, Jupiter, that has to do with long distance transportation and shipment. So things like that. So things were, discovered. I was thinking maybe it would be like an archeological find where some really cool things from the past will be discovered, but I guess this is what was discovered. Then there were also continuing, I guess, explosions and some issues out of Iran that already occurred also last week. So some sort of series of explosions and power outages, and whatever the reason was, whether it was some sort of targeted attacks that targeted missile depots, or perhaps just some sort of a brief blackout, as was reported, linked to a local hospital. But the bottom line is that we had the power outages and explosions, and basically potentially affecting, again, power plants and maybe even nuclear power plants, whether or not it's being reported officially or not. But Pluto would indicate things like, again, nuclear power plants, especially nuclear weapons, or any secretive kind of illegal criminal activities. And even if it's not necessarily reported as being such, if there's a suspicion of that being, associated with something secretive and criminal, chances are it is, again, under this particular aspect at this particular time. And also, I think this is the other piece of news that came up on July 12th out of Russia, that they had started building the world's largest and most powerful nuclear icebreaker for Arctic sea voyages. And again, this is a definitely not typical, but very good sort of manifestation of this aspect. Pluto, which is nuclear, world's largest, most powerful, is Jupiter. Jupiter leads to this exaggeration, expansion sort of beyond limits, and icebreaker. Again, we have this conjunction on Capricorn, and Capricorn has to do with things like that are cold, stone, rock, metal, don't move very quickly, grow very slowly. And of course, ice is this basically rock, so to speak. It's not rock, obviously, but it is cold. It doesn't, necessarily move very easily, and you have to, break it with a lot of force. So that definitely is an interesting manifestation that fits well with this aspect. And there was also an interesting piece of news out of China, which both fits with my prediction of basically China going through like series of medical reforms or experiencing some sort of changes that maybe will be for better or worse, changing their healthcare sort of approach. This could be, through like changes how labs are functioning, or the development of some new medicines or some approaches, and or dealing with, again, epidemics, etc. And at the same time, also this fits with this Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn, where Capricorn has to do also with like I said, rocks, but also bones and teeth. And we had an interesting piece of news out of China where scientists at the Zhejiang University School of Medicine in Hangzhou, China, basically discovered that if you mix calcium and phosphate ions with a certain chemical in alcohol solution, I'm not sure why I'm reading all these details, but it will then allows enamel, tooth enamel, to grow with the same structure as in teeth. And I guess for a long time it was a challenge to kind of regrow enamel so that one could repair teeth without necessarily, by regrowing enamel rather than drilling holes and refilling them with whatever they're being filled with for repairing cavities. So that is definitely another sort of positive, I guess, example of this Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn, where you have this discovery of something that can be regenerated, which is the key word with Pluto, something that dies first, but then it can be regenerated. Hence, the power and things like that are associated with Pluto as well. And of course, there are also some increased news related to China, where both there are some news of the, I guess, bubonic plague cases from both China as well as Mongolia, and also, I guess, Chinese embassy in Kazakhstan had warned about another sort of dangerous local pneumonia that was occurring in Kazakhstan, where it was more deadly than COVID-19, and basically a lot of, or not a lot of, I don't know how many, but a number of Chinese citizens had died in Kazakhstan from that as well. And so basically, so the fact that we had, again, more news about China being concerned about various plagues, and also making this interesting discovery about regrowing tooth enamel. And I predict basically that there will be more news out of China, both in terms of either, again, research findings or new wave of some sort of either disease, be it COVID-19 or something else, and or some sort of reform, or how maybe healthcare is administered, or how medical care is provided, or perhaps even just some sort of a financing of, the healthcare, providers, or on like a large scale could be basically a topic of like much focus in China through the end of this year. And not until like, I'd say November, December is when we will see like the final resolution of what exactly are the consequences of COVID-19, or some sort of finding a solution to it, be it some sort of vaccine or something, or the final, I guess, toll where things are finally opened up, or finally, things are changing for good. So I do predict that we will hear more such news. And similarly for the Pluto and Jupiter conjunction type news, again, think of world's largest, biggest, something to do with nuclear power, or largest, biggest, crime ring discovered, or world's largest, biggest, criminal, Pluto being sentenced, Jupiter to whatever, sentence. So we may hear more news about similar events that we just had the last week or two coming back in November, especially between November 4th and 20th. So there will be more, hopefully some, interesting new discoveries, some sort of new breakthroughs, or it could be more, crime or spying or hacking, and things that, again, have previously been hidden, but now they cannot stay hidden and are finally discovered. So we will hear more about that in the fall. Let's see. And of course, there's another ongoing sort of prediction that's specific for the US. It started sometime in January of this year and will continue through December of 2021. And that has to do with increased and focus on, again, spying, hacking, loans, taxes, bankruptcies, raids, as well as, of course, also just death and burials and nuclear power, all those same kind of, whistleblowing, secrets being exposed, and or underground location or secretive activities. But we did have, I mentioned that before several times, but the businesses that might be affected the most will probably have to do with communication, transportation, so anything to do with cars, rental cars, retail sales, newspapers, anything to do with like maybe even airlines, of course. And we did have news last week that Brooks Brothers store closings were announced, and that the retailer filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. So we will definitely hear more such news. Again, that's for the US through the end of 2021. So for this week, we have similar ongoing background influences in terms of the seismic activity. As I said, I think will pick up more on like a larger global scale, more like in November through February. However, this week, I would say the key dates to look for where the worst things may happen, like mudslides or earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, would be July 13th through 15th. Let's see, then we also have, I guess, upcoming next month in August will be a fairly difficult time period, and things will already start kind of cranking up, I guess, at the end of July. But in August, maybe it will be following end of July events perhaps, but there may be more kind of a tightening up in terms of like governmental regulations, controls, embargoes, taxes, tariffs, or needing to reorganize some structures, be it, at the top of some corporations, top of some governments, be it on the city level or level of the countries, but changes in the power, and maybe some shakeups where a leader has to step away. People are angry with the leader. Leader is deemed to be basically incapable of leading properly, or perhaps there are more anti-governmental protests, even violence, shootings, fires, explosions, or news about corruption, scandals involving governmental and corporate officials, attack on governmental corporate officials, and or some sort of natural disaster. So it could be, maybe there's a natural disaster, the response is too slow, violent protests, and somebody has to step down. Or it could be literally, there's an earthquake or again some other natural disaster, and some old infrastructure collapses and it needs to be rebuilt. Again, something is shaken up and leadership needs to step in and change things, and some new person maybe takes leadership, and therefore, there's this change, who's in power, because some unusual event occurs that needs to be responded to. And again, for US specifically, especially through August 13 through 21, there may be increased news about governmental and corporate leadership changes, as well as problems with bankruptcies, loans, rates, debt, and again, mostly for retail, communication, transportation industries, anything to do with travel, social media, newspapers, car manufacturers, rental businesses, etc. And so this August, look for that. In the US and for China, August 9th through 17th look again similarly tense, but there the focus may be more on things like healthcare, pharmaceuticals, navy, chemicals, oil pollution, recycling, or any secretive activities, where again, if there is a wave of, say, some sort of disease or something, whether or not it is going to be properly reported remains to be seen, but certainly, definitely there may be more news from China, stressful news related to these areas, again, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, pollution, navy, etc. Let's see, then in terms of coronavirus outbreak, I already mentioned that before, but I think that at least certainly judging from the China's chart, it will definitely remain, I guess, in the news, or remain important, an important factor on the economy through, say, December of 2020, and especially period of October 26th through November 20th, especially within that time period, November 9th through 13th, so sometime, let's say, second week of November, may really be the most important, and where if there's a policy that's made in China, for example, about, okay, we're going to end now the lockdown, or we're going to make this final change about what is our sort of a post-COVID-19 world looks like, or here's the final tally of it, or tally of deaths, or something that's like a finalizing circumstance where things are moving into the next phase, for good. It will be November of this year, but still, say, August through November, we'll probably see an even higher rate of either infections or greater focus on COVID-19, so it will still be with us for some months. In terms of oil prices, or really any other topics that relate to Neptune, which could include things like, of course, oil, gas, but also religion, chemicals, navy, beverages, any sort of drugs, anything to do with basically maybe even music, and pharmaceuticals, we will see increased focus on these areas starting July 26th approximately, and then July 26th to 28th may see stronger than usual market movements, and especially on the 27th there may be a big market drop, and then the focus on, again, oil prices on sort of more of a larger scale will come back about the same time, where we'll see this also predict maybe increased seismic activity, which will be November 2020 through February of 2021, and especially at the end of January 2021. And there may even be either major, again, either not changes, but maybe major talks about, say, oil producers, or a major accident, which either involves like maybe oil field somewhere or place where they produce oil, or an attack on oil producer, or perhaps an accident that leads to contamination of, with oil, maybe like a tanker, or contamination with chemicals, or use of chemicals in such a way where things are contaminated, or a gas leak or something major along those lines. And again, end of January of 2021 looks pretty bad in that sense. But at the same time, also at the end of January of 2021, in parallel with that, there may be increased news related to like airlines, telecom companies, IT companies, as well as finance, earnings, banks, currencies. So this could be sudden bankruptcies or sudden like closures or openings, because maybe, again, like what we saw with, say, Microsoft stores. So it could be some changes in terms of how those companies make money, basically. It could be that they can't make money and they have to close. But that, again, also happens at the same time where we may see more increased news about oil prices. So it's possible that maybe, again, there's a change in, say, travel, and it obviously would affect then, say, something like airlines, and would affect, of course, oil prices at the same time. And that's, again, November through February, especially end of January 2021. And at that time, I would say January 18th through 29th of 2021 may be quite significant, and we may see increased market volatility at the same time. Looking even further out, in April of 2021, especially April 8th through 11th, there yet may be renewed tensions and fighting over oil, or about oil prices, maybe again trying to figure out what the production should be, or just fighting among countries that happen to be known oil producers. And again, these tensions may be accompanied by a large market drop around April 8th and or 9th of 2021. So those are these kind of global trends. In terms of the stock market direction for this week, I made a prediction, and I posted this already yesterday on my blog at Tolstunka.com. The prediction is that for every day of the week, I gave it basically greater probability of market being up. Maybe not a very strong confidence, about 55-60%, but still things looked mostly, more, on the upside for me. And as I saw already today, I guess market had finished mixed, where NASDAQ was up almost the entire day, but then with the California reversal of the decision, I guess, to close back, and the market then went down, at least for NASDAQ, and Dow Jones remained up. 13th or 14th of July, I do see there may be increased focus on healthcare, and especially, or pharmaceuticals, medical treatments, and that might be related particularly to wounds, head trauma, migraines, and injuries that have to do with wars, accidents, sports activities, burns, shootings, all of these kind of margin activities. We did have this news about this, I guess, Navy vessel, that there was this explosion in San Diego in the US. I haven't really read, I guess. I'm not sure if anybody got injured there, but this is the time where we may hear more about either treatments or people needing such treatments that, again, have to do with these kind of injuries. And we may also hear about new treatments that work faster than before, or push for developing treatments faster. There may also be increased news about a prominent athletes or military person's health. And July 13th through 15th, we may also see increased news about powerful leaders, famous individuals, gold, and or solar energy. So the leaders and or famous people may be more in the news due to some issues related to law, judgments, immigration, long distance transportation, shipments, higher education, and or death, burial, underground location, secretive activities, manipulative activities, doing something illegal, spying, terrorism, problems with taxes, debt, or insurance. So it could be something like a famous person, is revealed that they have perhaps done something secretive and illegal, or they have problems with their taxes, for example, or they went bankrupt, or they've been lying about something, again, illegal, or they're sentenced to something. At the same time, we may also hear more about, there could also be secret related to their sort of background, family, or investments, especially investments in real estate. So things that come to mind may be like on their mother's side, or their motherland, or something like that, that there may be something prominent and some ties that maybe were secretive before now can be revealed related to that famous person. There might also be increased news about, like I said, about gold and or solar power related projects. This too may involve some legal decision and international connections, or connection to some underground location or secrets. Again, debt, rates, all these same kind of concerns. So something may be like an investment in solar power projects, or some archeological discoveries, and maybe, some cool gold jewelry is discovered somewhere that's been buried, underground, or some temple that's, worshipped sun or something like that. That would be obviously the most the happier development with this, and that's 13th through 15th of July. For US, 13th through 15th of July also look important, and there we may hear more about things related to law, judgments, immigration, long-distance transportation, shipments, higher education, and foreign relations. And these may involve agreements, negotiations, sale, acquisition, and especially in the areas of communication and transportation businesses. So anything to do with selling, I guess, import, export, there may be more talks about that, and how to legalize, travel, and some sort of agreements with international partners. Then 15th and 16th, especially the morning of the 16th of July for US, looks significant in terms of focus on things like taxes, insurance, loans, debt, rates, investments, as well as, again, communication and transportation businesses, various agreements, retail sales, education, and younger people in general. So businesses that maybe have mostly younger people as their main audience, or something that has to do, involves young people, maybe young entrepreneurs, or again, school supplies, education facilities, etc. And this could be some sort of issue can be clarified or legalized, or agreement may be signed, or maybe a new direction is established, a new leader is appointed, etc. And let's see, and like I said, overall this week looks fairly positive. I think it would be an up week overall. At the same time, towards the end of July, we may see more sort of increase in more stressful news, and then particularly there may be a large move in the market. I think it might be a drop on July 20th and or 21st, and this may have to do with some sort of a stressful news about either leaders or prominent persons, maybe also heightened conflicts with international partners for the US specifically. So the markets may kind of get concerned about these tensions with international partners, and possibly may result in a large drop on July 20th and or 21st. Then for China, 20th through 25th of July, especially 21st through 23rd, looks significant, and there too may be in stressful news related to also negotiations, agreements, sales, communication, transportation businesses, as well as pharmaceuticals, healthcare, navy, pollution, etc. And at that time, China as a country may perceive as being on the sort of receiving end of some angry attack, or being rushed into entering some sort of risky financial agreement, and so there may be tension. So given that, of course, US and China are in various agreements, it could be, that these two things, is July 20th through 25th, may involve negotiations between US and China specifically, and those may be tense, and market may react with a down move. Then at the end of July, so I'd say starting July 26th and then through 29th, there may be increased concerns about things related to oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, beverages. So the concerns may involve the value perhaps of some, maybe chemical or value of oil or value of some pharmaceutical is too high or perhaps not enough. And there may also be increased kind of a stressful news related to like Navy, ships, transportation over water or underwater, water pollution, religion, mental health, beverages, poisons, drugs, etc. So it could be, combination of the above. Again, maybe some person with, mental health goes on a Navy base and they start shooting, or maybe it's discovered that maybe mental health facility wasn't treating patients properly, or overcharging people for some drug, for example. And the news may also be related to maybe some sort of financial problem. Maybe like a purchase of oil can't go through. A ship that maybe is transporting either chemical or oil or beverages can't come or leave. Or cost of some medicine may skyrocket or fall dramatically. Again, same thing goes for oil prices. There may be a swing in oil prices. Either oil will be seen as, the prices of oil may be seen as too high and they drop rapidly, or there's some sort of issue where, again, like I said, transportation, something can get through, so oil cannot be delivered, and therefore, this price of oil may go up. There may also be increased news about at the end of July about some sort of prominent religious figure or an actor that gains attention because they either overspend, they spend money incorrectly, maybe they donated to somebody and people are in uproar about that, or maybe they use the money for something illegally or mishandle the money, or I didn't put this in my written blog, but now of course with this Hagia Sophia news, maybe it could be, and of course we have restoration of Notre Dame Cathedral, so it could be something to do with, like, again, finance and religion, where maybe either religious person or place, location, or project takes, again, too much money or is mishandling money, or there's some financial problem there. And again, there might be a large drop in the markets on July 27th. For China, July 27, 28 also look significant. There may be some important public announcement that affects large groups of people and may be related to country announcing some new goals or announcing new ways of pursuing kind of their old goals, I guess, financial gain goals of increasing earnings in kind of new ways or more aggressively. So the announcement may be either, again, about some financial risks, maybe curbing financial risks or going after something even more aggressively and therefore taking on more risks. But it may also be announced that some, again, financial investments will be managed more carefully, regulating kind of risky financial activities a little bit better, and or offering some help where we're in a situation, maybe there's a need for something urgently, basically risk and finance, and it will affect large numbers of people, and that's out of China, July 27, 28. For US, yet again, unsurprisingly, July 27th or 30th also look significant, and there we may actually have positive news where, like, improved earnings, additional funding, increased values, permissions are granted, or some other beneficial developments, and that may also be related to sort of risky domains or domains that kind of move fast, things like sports, racing, engines, military, stock market, entertainment industry, and casinos. So either things, are allowed to happen kind of faster there, or these areas may announce increased earnings or increased financing, or at least permissions granted. Maybe I'm thinking online gambling or something like that is allowed, with all people being locked up, or something along those lines where basically these areas allowed to, evolve better, or these areas may see increased profits. And for US, July 28th through 31st may see yet again increased focus on oil, gas, pharmaceuticals, beverages, Navy, water pollution, all that stuff. And that's both, of course, I mentioned before, will be a global theme. At the end of July, focus on oil, gas, chemicals, of course, Navy, beverages, pharmaceuticals. And in the US, it happens to be also an important period with the same topics being prominent. And in the US, it will likely also see some concerns, such as decreased earnings, loss of value, lack of financing, or excessive prices. Makes me think of shale oil, basically, or fracking, I don't know, industries where they're not necessarily profitable, where they derive oil through means where basically they're not very profitable unless oil prices stay high. So this makes me think that we may see a drop in oil prices at the end of July, and therefore, at least on July 27th, or day or two plus minus, there may be a market drop associated with sort of concerns about these areas as well. So this is the overview, and like I said, this week looks pretty good, but starting next week, and especially towards the end of July, things may get a little bit more stressful. So I guess enjoy it while you can, and enjoy it in general. Hopefully you're watching these videos and you're getting some tips so that you can be prepared ahead of time, and basically stay safe and enjoy your life. So until then, I guess I catch you guys next week, and until then, bye.